and this is the current state of the BuoyBot project, which we've been working on for about 3 years. These are exactly the same BuoyBots. What's different is the type of top. So we've got two tops. One that we think is the ideal for the starting line, and the other one here, the rotating top, which is suitable for all other buoys. It clearly identifies if a boat comes into contact with the top. The downside of these is that there is quite a bit of windage, so if you're above that 18-20 knot mark, then these round ones are preferred just to take care of that windage. So as you see, we've got two very high quality motors, propellers. They're deliberately throttled back to 50% of their capacity, so we've got plenty of capacity. The batteries in these have proven to last in excess of 8 hours, and we recommend two types of batteries. And very lightweight, as you see, natural handle on the top here. Been developing these for 3 years, and we're going to continue to develop them because we know we're onto something that helps the radio sailing community out. So what we have now the ability to do, we can demonstrate them at a later point, is you can launch them and operate them individually in manual mode, where you point them in the direction you want and you tell them to go to a particular distance, or you can do that semi-automatically in that you can tell the buoy to take a compass bearing for a particular distance and hit the trundle button, as we call, and off it'll go, and when it gets to that point, it anchors up and stays there within the limits of the GPS technology. So if you can do that to one, you can do that for the whole course. You can set 6 buoys up like that, connect them each to each other, so if you choose to move the whole course up or back, or move the start line wider or narrower, or rotate the whole course around the principal the boat end, if you like, if you're used to big boat sailing, you have that ability. So forward, backwards, sideways and rotation as a complete fleet. We've got orders underway to 4 overseas countries at the moment, and a lot of interest from local clubs here in Australia.
And how long do the batteries last?
This particular one will last in excess of 8 hours on the water, and the hand controller battery about the same period of time. If I look at my screen here, I can tell of those 4 buoys what their status is. They're either anchored or they're moving. All these are anchored.
Yes.
And I can bind one to the other. So right now, those 4 buoys, number 1 is the right-hand end of the line.
Yep.
Number 2 is the left-hand end of the line.
Yes.
Which is typical for your sailing course. You've got a pinion and a boat end.
Yes.
And mimicking of course, you've got number 5, which is the top
mark,
and 3, which is the bottom mark. So
yep.
If the PRO was to say, hey, the line is too long, then I change the controller here to say, hey, talk to number 2 and make my line shorter.
Yep.
And I can, by changing the distance dial on here, and I can just hit that start, and number 2 will come in closer to number 1.
Yeah. Yep.
And it does so according to the angle of the breeze that you've told the controller
Yes.
to operate from. So you can see 5 is moving as well.
Yes.
Because you want, as a course compresses, you want to change the relativity of your top and bottom mark.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So in this case, so now I have to make the course a bit wider again, the start a bit wider. Off she goes. And number 3 will adjust to be in the centre of the course.
Yep.
If there's any alignment there.
And
Sure.
5 accordingly will
We'll move, yep.
bear the windward mark. Yep. There it goes.
And there you go. So that's stopped at about 12 metres.
Yep.
So let's assume now, so we are looking, there is a compass rose on here, we are looking northwest.
Yep.
So let's assume that the breeze is going to change around further to the west. So I'll tell the units here to make a small change to the course to the west. And what we're expecting to see is that 3 will go to the right, 5 will go to the left, and 2 will come towards us because the whole course is going to rotate around number 1.
Yep.
So I've made a small change on here to say go a bit to the west. I'll hit start on here. And here comes number 2 towards us.
Yep.
There goes number 3 to our right. There goes number 5.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And my screen here tells me that they're moving. T for trundle. And when they've reached their designated mathematical position, they'll stop and they'll anchor. So I'll get a message saying that they're anchored.
Yep.
And there's your realignment.
Yeah, realignment for your course.
For the course. So let's go back a little bit, back to the north again, which is again to our right. Let's come back, and I'll bring the start line a little bit closer together. I'll hit start. And the ability, the key question is, how well do they stay on their designated station?
Yes.
These are the MQ10 Martac GPS, and their promise is around about 1.5 meters from that position.
Interesting. Yep.
And as you see, if you get all the rest of the tuning right, they don't move much. Yes, they will, but so do boys who are already at anchor.
Well, that's right.
So if someone then said, hey, we want to move the whole course off the bank, I can just go to number 1. Go to number 1. There you go. You've got to be very deliberate with this process and give it time. There's a lot going on. They're talking to probably up to 20 odd satellites. And now I'm going to say to number 1, hey, move. I've got an option to move anywhere between 5 and 100 metres. So I'll move this guy about 10 or 15 metres, and I'm going to move it to, where are we now? We're facing northwest. I'll say we're going to move it in that general direction. So all these boys are tied together, and they're tied together around number 1. And I'll hit trundle until I get an audible signal. And now they're all going to follow one in the same geometry as they were previously, but realign 12 metres to the northwest. And when they do, I'll get a message saying that number 1 is anchored.
In position.
And you'll see it visually that it's going to anchor. Take my glasses off so you can see what I'm doing. So we've still got 15 metres to go. So you know, it's travelling quite a distance.
Yes.
But we can interrupt all that and say, oh, righto, we've gone far enough.
We're happy
We're
with that,
overestimated. So I'm just going to anchor number 1 where it is. And the others will keep moving until they're
in their relative positions.
And there you see, and only number 5. Boom. So they've all pulled up. There you go.
Yep.
And if it's end of day, playtime over, bring them all home. Push the home button. Audible signal. And here they come all. They're all coming home.
Like cows coming in to be milked.
Like cows. And they will stop within 5 metres of where we are. I think home is where the controller is.
Yes.
And they'll stop within 5 metres, which means they're going to run aground.